Welcome to Powered by Authenticity. I hope everybody is off to a great week. And I know we are here at the podcast because we love the guest that's joining us tonight. She's back. We loved her so much. We're so excited to have her back. Lynne Thornton, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, and what a way to kick off 2026. So thank you for inviting me again.
Yeah, for sure. I can't believe it's 2026. It's just mind blowing that we're here.
So quickly.
Yeah, and last year went by so fast. 2025 was a very quick year, but well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of our first shows of 2026. I truly appreciate it. And I think what we're going to talk about tonight is so relevant as we kick off the new year. I know that, when we reflect upon kind of new things that we may want to do in the new year, sometimes a lot of that focuses around ourselves and development opportunities and potentially even how that could drive us into new career or even personal goals and objectives that we want to set for ourselves. And so I'm excited to talk tonight about a tool and some of the coaching opportunities that come with that that will help set people up for success. So thanks for being here. I'm excited to get into this. And first off, why don't you do a little bit of an intro and just remind everybody who Lynne Thornton is?
Yeah, so I have many decades of experience in the corporate world as a tech exec and leader. I in 2024 got a coaching certification from University of Buffalo and Hogan Assessment certification. What I found in my prior role was that I just loved working with people, coaching them, mentoring them, really gravitated towards that. And a friend of mine got their certification, and I thought that would be a great next step in my career to go into career in leadership coaching. So I did that in 2024, and I started my own LLC. It's Elevate Advisory Services, and I'm the CEO and sole employee so far with Elevate, and that's my coaching business.
That's awesome. And you're in Buffalo?
Yes, born, raised, and stayed in Buffalo. So all of my life, never intended it to be that way, but that's how it happened, and that's good. I'm married to my husband Bill for 36 years. I have two young adult sons that keep me quite busy. A rescue dog. Her name's Luna, and she's the easiest one in the family.
Oh, what kind of dog is she?
She's a rescue from Colombia, South America, and two young women that were traveling through South America found her and her puppies basically starving to death and then brought them to a rescue. Small world in Buffalo, the woman that owned the rescue, Cartagena Paws, was formerly from Williamsville, New York, and that's how my dog eventually ended up back here with us.
That's such a cool story.
It is.
That's
it
awesome.
Is. They saved her.
Yeah. Well, of course, we've got our Bills on deck for this weekend. So as we're all saying here in Buffalo, go Bills. We're ready for it. But Lynne, as you know, we like to do a little bit of an icebreaker just to get things kicked off. And a lot of times that revolves around food and community. And so I'm curious, what's your favorite wind down spot in Western New York? So you've had a long day. Where's the spot that you're going to go hang out at?
That is an easy one. So I don't know if you've ever been to Hydraulic Hearth, but that is my absolute favorite. It's in Larkinville, and I love Larkinville, but Hydraulic has fantastic pizzas, fancy drinks, and just a great atmosphere. It's a lot of fun, and I like it so much that was the last place we went to before the pandemic.
Okay.
And then it was the first place we went to when the world reopened after the pandemic. So that's my favorite wind down. And then from outdoors perspective, though, I'm an outdoors enthusiast, and I live very close to Chestnut Ridge. So anything and everything about Chestnut Ridge is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. And if you have not seen the Eternal Flame yet, that is a must do if you're in the Western New York area.
I've actually never seen that. So I'll have to make it a point to get there in 26.
It's a natural wonder. Just the advice is, though, don't go when it's slippery or icy. Go on a nice day.
Okay, well, I'll wait till summer or maybe spring.
They do end up airlifting people occasionally out of there, so you don't want to be one of those poor people.
Oh, no, and I would be too. That's just my luck. Well, producer Ken, how's it going tonight?
It's going good. Yeah, you never want to be the one that makes the news,
Yeah.
no matter what you do.
Art, where are you winding down in Western New York?
Well, if we're talking about going to a particular establishment, out for dinner, out for drinks, whatever, I like our after-show special, Romans.
Yeah, I like Romans,
That's the go-to.
Yep.
But I love just getting out for a run on the through some of the local parks, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And we are lucky. We have a lot of great parks and
A lot of parks, a lot of public land with trails that are very easily accessible.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, very good. I'm gonna say Romans or Bar Olo. So, Lynn, we have a little wine bar that just opened here in Batavia, and it has a speakeasy in the back. So even if you're not a cocktail drinker, just to go, it's just a cool space. You can go relax and have a charcuterie, and it's just a lovely little spot. So, and anywhere near the water, just put me in. I'll be happy to.
One of these days, I'm going to go to Batavia and we'll go to that place together.
Yes, you need to come on out. We're a cool little spot. All right. Well, I want to dig into the coaching work that you are doing. So, can you share what you're doing through your coaching business, how you support individuals, and then I really want to talk about Hogan and how that helps to support the work that you're doing, and just as a awareness to everybody coming up. I actually took the Hogan assessment in preparation of this, so we're going to give a sample readout using what mine said about me, and it was eerily spot on as we went through
fascinating.
And very fascinating. But Lynn, share a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, so I mentioned in 2024 I graduated from UB's program, and what I did is volunteered to stay on as a faculty coach. So the last 2 years I've been a faculty coach where I help coach and mentor and teach the new coachees that are going through the program. So that's my second year into that, and I really enjoy doing that. I'm also coaching some graduate students, and then just coming up soon, I'm going to be part of a mentoring program for Western New York Women's Foundation, and then UB also has a conference in the beginning of February called Next Level Leadership, and I'm going to be coaching and mentoring for that program too.
That's amazing. Now, how do you use Hogan as part of these coaching engagements?
Hogan is a personality assessment, and not every coach is certified in Hogan, but I cannot imagine not using Hogan as part of the coaching engagement.
Yeah.
So it's a personality assessment, and what Hogan does is it measures reputation. So an individual fills out the survey, it measures reputation, and the reason reputation is very important is when you're in the workforce, how you're evaluated, how you get promoted, how you're how you stand out is all based on what people think of you and what your reputation is. So that's why reputation for Hogan is such an important measurement.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you use this to help guide, right? Like, so somebody's a coaching client for you, and maybe they're at a crossroads for what they want to do next, or how do they get to the next level. This would be something that you would talk them through, correct?
Yeah, it all shows up in the Hogan, and sometimes some of the information is not as apparent, and that's where coaches are trained. We're trained to ask good questions to get that information from the coachee and be able to really narrow down where we want to go with that person. For Hogan, there's three key components of Hogan, which are the person's motives and values. So seems simple, but very important to know what your motives and values are. And then the bright side, they call it the bright side of personality, or that's kind of your everyday personality while you're working. And then if there's a bright side, there's a dark side. So the dark side of the personality is what sometimes strengths for people, but often derailers. Often people don't realize that others know what these derailers are. And these are things that really hold people back in their career if they aren't identified and addressed proactively. So those three components come out in Hogan. And then what the coach does is shares all of the information with the coachee, asks a lot of questions. And then, so the Hogan framework is called the mirror and map framework. And what that means is, just as a mirror will show you what you look like to others, Hogan shows you what your reputation looks like to others. And then the map portion of Hogan is all about working again with the coachee to identify what their pathway should be once they know what their values are, what their strengths are, what their derailers are, and putting together a plan where they're able to overcome those challenges and then leverage those strengths and values and be as successful as they can, and hopefully leading to career growth, promotions, and all those good things.
Yeah. And that's cool. And, I think the fun part about it is that when you're working with somebody one-on-one and they say, I don't know how to get to the next level, or I've been passed by several times for that next level, you can take this and say, okay, why do we think that is? And map it to what like their leadership sees of them, and how to pivot that that perspective or that perception of that person.
Yeah, and it shows up. It shows up every time when you're coaching somebody. And we're all unique. We all have really great things, and we all have our challenges. And sometimes it becomes very apparent why somebody hasn't been able to get to that director or C level through some of the results in their Hogan assessment. And again, then it's time to say, okay, here's what my reputation is. I'm going to build a plan and a map and get there and overcome these things and leverage the benefits.
Yeah, one thing that just it literally just popped into my mind is that a lot of us were part of like a reduction in force, and we had to make a decision. Do we go out and find another job? Do we go out on our own? And, I know for myself, I went out on my own. I think you did as well. And we know a couple others through the WIT network that kind of decided to take that path. This could be a great tool to say, is that truly the right path for somebody? Like, do I have the personality to be an entrepreneur and to go grow something? Or am I truly a 9-to-5er and a company person? Like this type of thing, I would think could help a person make a decision when they're at almost a crossroads of where do I go next?
Yeah, every time. And it can help with the crossroads of, do I leave this company? Do I stay with the company? Do I take another job within the company? It can be used in so many ways. I have a friend that I coached, and I gave her the Hogan, and it became very apparent through the discussion that there was a definite misalignment in what she wanted out of, or didn't want at her current state of being a leader, versus what her company wanted of her. And what they did is it did prompt some soul searching on her end, and she ended up going to a new organization with a role that was a better fit for her.
Oh, that's so cool. It's fun to hear those success stories. And I know we'll talk about a couple of those as we get through the show. But all right, so let's talk about my results. So yes. I found this very funny because I was a sea of blue, and you can explain to everybody what that exactly means. But apparently we don't see sea of blues very often when it comes to the Hogan.
Yeah, so what Emily's referring to in the sea of blue is we color code the results. So the values portion is color coded blue. The bright side of personality is yellow, and then the derailers are red. So when I got Emily's results back, it prompted a little bit of extra research and digging on my end, because out of 10 personality traits for values, 6 out of 10 were very high for you, and that's where you referred to your sea of blue. And when I was preparing for our meeting, I had to look into what does that mean, and it really pointed to two different things that are totally the opposite. One is that the person really doesn't, they don't know what they want. They don't know what they value, and it's coming across as they value everything. And then the opposite of that is the person truly does value a lot. Which, Emily, that seemed to be your situation.
Yeah, and it is funny. I, as and we'll talk about a couple of some examples, but it is funny. I find, and this is where I wish I was financially in a much different space, because I would spend all of my days going to find places to donate that money and give that money back and all of these different things. But, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my upbringing or what it is, but like I just I value the people and those aspects of leadership more than the almighty dollar. Now, one needs to feed to the other. Obviously, we all need to make money, but yeah, it was interesting to hear your questions and kind of that conversation that we had.
Yeah, and that ties in with, so I'd mentioned 6 out of 10 were very high. Your two highest traits here were altruism. No surprise, I expected that. But the other was commerce, which is money, and I didn't expect that. And again, that prompted more research.
Yeah.
Some of these questions prompt a lot of research, and I was trying to figure out. To me, they seemed like they couldn't coincide, but after looking into this and then asking you questions and having a conversation, a more in-depth conversation with you, people can be very high in both commerce and altruism, and it's mission-driven people that are business leaders, and they value people and profit. And when we had the conversation, it seemed to be a good fit for you. And what did you say? The money is a means to the end with the people, right?
Yep. Yeah. The more that I am able to, so I think about my time as a consulting leader for a large consulting firm. The more revenue that we generated, the more bonus, the more that I could give back to the team that was working for me. It wasn't necessarily that I was keeping tabs of what mine would be, but people would get to keep their jobs. Consulting is rough, right? Like somebody hits the bench because you're not making enough, revenue through sales. That person is given a week and then they're let go. So the more revenue we generate, the more opportunities that are there. The more my team had stability. And I even see that now. My husband had, a little hiccup there through the holidays, and the first thing I thought of was, well, I'm signed up to do all these donations. A year ago, I would have gone and bought 2 of everything that was on these poor Western New York heroes. Yeah, their Christmas lists. And now I'm like, I've got to pick and choose the highest priority because I need to protect my family as well. So it's just, it is funny. I would say that that's very true for valuing both the commerce, the revenue, the bottom line, but how that equates to building my team, being able to provide to my family, being able to give back into the community. One ties into the other in my brain. So
yeah, and it makes perfect sense, and it was very interesting to see. Again, at first I thought, how could these two things be possible together, and it sure is. But everybody is so unique, and again, that's why Hogan assessments and the results are just fascinating.
Yeah.
And then regarding your Sea of Blue, also, I believe you had mentioned to me too that sometimes you have to kind of hold yourself back because you want to do so much.
Well, it's true, because the first thing I'm thinking of is, okay, where do I generate more money? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start that charcuterie business I've always been thinking of. I'm just going to go for it now. And then, Dave is like, are you making money on podcasting and trying to grow that, or are you growing a charcuterie business? Because you really need to keep yourself. So definitely need to temper your mind there, Emily. But it is true. I see ways all the time. It's like, okay, well, what about this? What about that? But I do think that's also part of the entrepreneurial spirit, is that you think of new ways to be different. Now, charcuterie and tech, I'm not quite sure how I can put them together. I could probably figure something out, but I don't know.
I'm sure you could.
Computers made out of cheese. I don't know. But that's the first thing I think of is, how do I bridge that gap with something, and how can I go do more of something? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. But it was interesting.
Yeah. And then, going back to different strengths too, you did very, very, scored very highly on ambition, sociability, interpersonal sensitivity. Those are all the bright side personality characteristics too. And and I know you, but what I didn't understand until we did this is you like to be a leader.
Yeah, I do. First of all, it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to lead teams and lead people and lead initiatives. It's, I think that people often don't take the time to reflect back about what truly an honor and a privilege it is to be able to step into a leadership role. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility to yourself to do the right thing. And I think the other thing about leadership too is that some people don't stay authentic. They just don't stay true to themselves as they're getting into that role. And by way of name of podcast, I feel very fortunate that through the leadership climb, I've been able to make sure that I stay true to my values, which I obviously take, very seriously.
Then from a leadership perspective and from a career perspective, we did talk about kind of not super strong though, or super strong results on career direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's, I've made it no secret how much my heart is into podcasting and into speaking, and trying to figure out how to still keep I love my tech company. I love my clients, and that's always going to be a part of who I am. But how do I pivot more from, both personally and professionally into revenue generation through doing more speaking events and doing more podcasting events that are able to allow us to generate enough revenue to make that switch to, again, I still am always going to have two revenue streams, but one starts to tip higher than the other, and it's funny. I just had this conversation with Dave again today. It's, how do you do that? And it's not anything. When I was growing up, there was no, hey, this is how you monetize a podcast. There were no podcasts. There was MTV, which isn't even a thing anymore. So it's like, how do you do that?
I think there was no job description for content creation.
It's true. Yeah, there's just no job description. So how do you go make money at it, and how do you then change that to be your primary source of income? So you're absolutely correct. And it was funny when you brought this up because, through our organization that we've gotten to know each other through WIT, it's very clear what my first direction was, but he was like, no, not really anymore, and just trying to figure that. So that kind of that seesaw, if you will, from a career perspective is very real for me right now.
Yeah, and your results did show that too, because it's interesting because yes, you have your IT career and then you have the podcast career.
Yep.
And you scored also high in valuing security and tradition, which I believe is you had said is more aligned and a good fit with your IT role.
Yeah.
Project manager role.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, people are always going to need technology leaders, like even especially now in the days of AI and all of the new fun techie things that are out there, that more now than ever draws organizations to need people who understand what that is, how to govern it, how to structure it, implement it ethically, and that's definitely probably a more solid, stable career. But when you've got your heart pulling you towards something that you really prefer to do, something that you really love, that might come with some instability, and just it's such an interesting position to be in.
yeah, and then flipping back to the Emily, the podcaster, your interpersonal sensitivity and sociability are high, and I could see you. I see it when I'm doing these podcasts with you. You leverage those skills during these podcasts.
Yeah, and it's so fun. It's a completely different way. We talked to a content creator a couple weeks ago on the show, and it was fun. We were talking about like how do you sit down and get creative? Like it's just, for me, it's so different. I mean, there's an art form to being a leader. There's that non-scientific, interpersonal, creative ways that you have to think, but putting that into ways to grow an audience and grow, revenue and grow all of these things is just a completely different side of the brain.
Yeah. You also scored high on being imaginative, so I'm sure that you're leveraging that well too. When you remember, I said to you, I'm like, you are in the right jobs.
Yeah, I'm
You
in the right
really
jobs.
are.
I know. I hope so.
From
Yeah.
my perspective, it sure seems that way.
Yeah. It was very interesting. So it was, we spent about probably it was an hour and a half, right, or so,
Mhm.
on a call
Yeah.
together, walking through it, and just the conversation to me was fascinating. What you were able to pull out, and the types of questions that were being asked, and so I know, like, how I'm going to leverage it in 26 is, I think it's truly being aware of, if I get too charcuterie boarded, if I'm too, like, going off, which I do every Sunday, so I've probably got to be
You
careful.
love everything.
I know.
You value everything.
I
Yeah.
love everything, but how do I bring that in, right? And so
Mhm.
I think from I don't want to say goal setting, but just from realization setting with myself, maybe writing down all of those ideas and then vetting them out with my trusted advisors of, my son sitting here from a podcast and speaking perspective, and, my spouse to rein me in from starting yet something else, and just really take those ideas and prioritize them and try to figure out how that bleeds into both sides of the career. So it was like I said, I think now, if anybody's ever thought about doing a Hogan assessment or working with a coach, this first part of the year is the perfect time to go in and do it. You've got through first quarter then to kind of digest what's been said and the kind of the guidance that's being provided.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's what other ideas do you have that came out of this that you're thinking of implementing for 2026?
Well, I think I also have to look at it's funny. I think one other thing that we talked about is the fact that I do have I reach out to people all the time. Hey, I'm Emily, be on my podcast. But a lot of times when I'm in a social scene, it takes me a few minutes to warm up. I'm obviously going to be and that came out too.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, I was voted quietest in my class. So to even be sitting on a global platform is not something that 18-year-old Emily ever thought of. But I'm still very much, I have that person inside of me. So I think that's being aware when I go into social situations. That definitely came up. And I think just a lot of this is just learning how to give yourself grace in certain things as well. It's
Yeah.
when scary moments hit and you're not quite sure what's going to happen, instead of going out and, starting a charcuterie business, is like maybe taking a breath and, just prioritizing what the
Yeah.
balance is going to look like, for sure.
And again, just understanding that about yourself too, that you could tend to go inward and be quieter in a
Yep.
situation that you're not comfortable with, which is fine. Many of us do that, but
Yep.
what you want to do is make sure you're not overlooked or
Yeah.
or not heard or seen, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've gotten very good about making sure my voice is heard when I'm talking about all the things that we're doing here at the podcast. To the point of my husband's like, "Oh, you're going to say the word podcast again, aren't you?" But how do you grow something if you don't talk about it? Like, and
Exactly.
how do you make things better if you don't talk about it? So, yeah. I found it. Lynn, are you accepting new coaching clients right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I will have my contact information on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
so people could reach out to me. And I absolutely am accepting new clients. Anybody that reaches out to me, I'd love to have a conversation. I will not charge for the conversation, but I would love to have a conversation about different options that we could use from a coaching perspective, a Hogan perspective. We could have, I call it one and done sessions, where it's just really
Yeah.
somebody does a Hogan and then a debrief, and we put together a plan, or it could be a multi-session coaching engagement.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Okay, so what I'd like to know is, you've shared that one success story. Can you think of any other success stories that people have had? I mean, I had a lot of realizations when we went through that discussion. Like I said, it was a lot of fun for me to see how that read back. But any success stories that you'd like to share from some of your clients?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, and I kind of I thought about two different things that really have been standing out a lot with my clients. And many of my clients are newer leaders and very ambitious people, right? And, they want to succeed. They want to get to the highest level possible. And when you look at their results, what it shows is that, and having the conversation and the questions, what comes out a lot of times is they don't want to delegate. They don't want to collaborate. I do it best myself. I don't want to share with anybody else. And again, newer leaders, and I see that time and time again, and that's a great opportunity to, put that mirror in front of that person and help them understand what they're doing. Because when they don't delegate and when they don't empower their staff and when they're trying to do everything on their own, people are going to flee from their organization because 100%. People want to be with leaders that help them grow and develop. And they're not realizing that by having this behavior of, I have to do it all myself or it's not done right, that they're driving people away. So that's that comes up a lot. And I've seen people put together some really good ways to like self-measure how they're handling that and getting better. The other one that seems to be big, especially with newer leaders, is overly cautious and risk adverse, and they often tend to be afraid to make these big decisions and overthink everything and kind of put equal severity weight to everything and equal risk weight to everything. And again, showing that to them is very valuable. In some careers, that's you want that, right? Compliance jobs, maybe HR, legal jobs. You want that fear of risk, but other companies value risk, and if they can't get past this, they're not going to improve. They're not going to get promoted, and they're not going to be seen as a thought leader, for example. And again, it's getting them to see that in themselves, and then asking them to go back with some steps and some measurable things that they could do, where they can. Not overcome that, but just, be more successful. And what we don't want to do is have somebody do the opposite, just take risks on everything all of a sudden. But how can they look at things that are a little less severe, and get riskier there and get more comfortable with that? Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, that is, I see it all the time in organizations, right? You've got a new leader who is so afraid that if they make a decision and something happens, that there's going to be, they build it up in their heads, right? Document it and, be aware of what could possibly happen, but learning how to just pull the Band-Aid anyways, it's something that new leaders need. So.
Yeah. And then what comes hand in hand with that is over preparedness, where they have to just be prepared for every single thing. And by doing that, though, they're not able to think strategically. They're not able to do more bigger things because they're doing everything, and they're burning out and they're spread too thin.
Yeah, agree. Do you work, I think you said you were going to UB, but do you work with college students or students that are trying to figure out what their first step should be?
I'm coaching college students right now, and
That's cool.
I love it.
Yeah, it's important. I feel bad for kids coming out of college.
I love it because they're sponges, and I also love that this program is offered where some of these students can go through this program too, because to have this type of knowledge and insight about yourself at such a young age is just incredibly powerful. And Hogan results do change sometimes slightly, but they're pretty much stable. And to be able to, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, for these people to keep going back to these results and just know, again, what strengths to leverage, what they value, and what their derailers are, is going to be so powerful in their careers, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. Well, what's one thing you want to make sure our listeners know about just the value of this tool as they go into 2026? What's one thing you want to make sure we leave them with?
Yeah, so and Emily, you kind of said it before. So it's a new year, 2026. we all like to go into the new year saying that, I have career objectives and growth objectives, and I have big career dreams. So imagine what your 2026 would look like at the end of the year if you hired a coach, if you leveraged Hogan, if you gained these insights on what you value the most, what your strengths are, what your obstacles and derailers are, and worked on putting together those steps towards improving in those areas and growing in those areas, you could accelerate your career. I know it sounds simple. It is simple. You just have to take the step to do it. So again, my contact information is going to be provided. I'd love to speak to anybody that would be interested in having a conversation with me about it, because it's so powerful.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. I do think, it's definitely a different experience than like Strength Finders or any of those. It's definitely something unique. I've done, those as well. But I think it's different what you walk out with. It's a different experience getting the read out, like with yourself and the questions. So, even if somebody's done those other tools, I think it's well worth the time to go through the Hogan assessment and just kind of work with somebody to understand the findings. So.
Yeah, and sometimes I use Strengths Finders to complement the Hogan information too, because sometimes people are just so used to hearing what they need to develop, and they don't understand that they're all these great things, and they have no idea. And Strengths Finders can help with that and complement that well. But we always say with Hogan, it's Hogan is like Strengths Finders and DISC and all of those assessments. It's all of those things, but on steroids, and just so much more powerful.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, Lynne, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. And then maybe we'll do our third podcast at the beginning of 2027.
Well, I think what we're planning on doing is actually through the WIT Network. I think we'll probably try to do a podcast at one of the events and grab some conversations with some of the other WIT members too, but we need to make sure you're there. You have to give them guidance because you've got the experience now.
Yes, I sure do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending the time with me. This was a lot of interesting information for me personally. And I know, we spent quite a bit of time walking through it, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the thoughtful conversation, the questions, kind of how it was really interesting to see how kind of everything tied in. And, again, I go back to the fact that it's different to think you know things about yourself, but when you actually get to talk through them, what that looks like on the other side too. So thank you for spending so much time with me as well as we went through this.
My pleasure. And like I said, your results were so interesting too. So I very much enjoyed that.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm always the problem child. That's okay. Well, Lynne, thank you again for being here. Producer Ken, thanks for being here.
You got it.
We appreciate it. And Lynne, when you make it to Batavia, I'll have to bring you into the studio that we use here at Go Art. So we've got the little mural back there, but Go Art's just an amazing community organization that have been just great friends of here the podcast, and we just appreciate the use of their podcast studio tonight. So we also want to thank them.
Yeah, we're going to do that, and we're going to do the speakeasy. Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so great. But well, again, Lynne, thank you for being here. We'll catch up live and in person, I think, in February at the Galentine's Day event through the WIT Network. But again, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Happy 2026.
Happy 2026.